Something my granddaddy used to tell us. You know Macumbo? Voodoo. Granddad was a priest in Trinidad. He used to tell us, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Finish it off!
Better look around. When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Yo, what's up gang, it's Stuck on Pandora, and I've been wanting to do this video since the week of State of Decay 2's release, because the things I'm going to discuss here stuck out to me like a sore thumb. In fact, I feel as if I return to these topics more than anything when I'm streaming State of Decay 2, because they are little things that add up and are almost constantly on my mind. And I think if they corrected these little things, they would, in my opinion, create a much better experience. Now, I know that streamers giving developers critiques and advice has become a dime a dozen, and all too often of late devolves into a cascading torrent of rage, similar to Captain Rhodes and Dr. Logan trying to have a conversation.
Supposed to be here at 7 o'clock sharp, mister.
I know. Sarah told me. I'm sorry I couldn't break away. Is there food?
Listen, egghead, let me bring you up to date on what's been...
Excuse me! Is there food?
I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time!
So, quick preface. I love State of Decay 1 and 2. I'm a fan of Undead Labs. I've been watching their website and company since I became addicted to the first State of Decay. State of Decay 1 for me was the closest any game had come to capturing George A. Romero's world. When Breakdown came out, I played the game religiously. I really felt I was role-playing one of the characters from Romero's movies, and reached 29th in the world on the leaderboard. I put 80 hours in the first week of State of Decay 2's release, and have been going at it steady since then. In this video I want to share 7 things that I feel was lost between the first and the second game, and little things that add up in State of Decay 2 to cause annoyance, in order from least to greatest. For the sake of this list, I'm also not going to bring up bugs or frame rate issues, because that goes without saying, is basically just a core obstacle the game needs fixing in general.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Number 7, the main story's progression. The quest system is clunky. I feel the order of quests are backwards. Tutorial, kill the plague heart, do your legacy missions, the game ends. The legacy missions are glorified tutorial missions. Go kill this guy, do superficial trades with this person, make this empty decision because there's only one outcome anyway. Without spoiling, the trader has been the most elaborate, but it was ultimately a drive in a big circle making dialogue choices for trades I didn't have to make. I only had to talk to them and buy their items, which I was already doing on my own in a much more elaborate way with the depot anyway. So the end of my playthrough is to learn what I was already doing, and if I wasn't then, I would have had just learned what I could do just in time for the story to end. The legacy mission should be the opener. We should get the boon after doing the quest line, but get to continue. Completing a legacy could open new ways to play. A sheriff gets to call on a posse. Red talent is more likely to join if you're a sheriff. Police stations are made automatically into outposts, or if you're a warlord, military areas are made into outposts. See where I'm going with that?
Are they slow moving, Chief?
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Well,
Number 6, anachronism. Radiant quest, dialogue, the way survivors behave and the obstacles your community faces would make sense if this was the opening of the apocalypse like State of Decay 1, which takes place I believe 2 weeks afterward, rather than the year and a half this is supposed to represent. Stories from recruited survivors tend to be 2 sentences of crap. I lost my dog when I was 3, it made me sad. We then get a morale negative because John Doe is sad. I met my husband in a bar, we had drinks, we then learned Sarah is blue, so -7 morale. It's frustrating to be knocked by RNG, but it's also jarring that we inhabit a world a year and a half after the first State of Decay, and yet people are having identical conversations as if this thing just started. A message comes over the radio that some people are resorting to cannibalism. Well, duh. FEMA and the CDC think it would take about 28 days for civilization to collapse. Dawn of the Dead takes place at the 4-week mark. Day is 4 months later and there's few if any people even left. I expect a different story to be told. Survivors still in their best clothes from the Gap and Amercon Abercrombie and Finch is jarring. It breaks my suspension of disbelief. I don't expect a Pulitzer Prize-winning story here. I just want it to make sense. I believe the open world map captures the world really well. They did a great job on the art direction. The looted remains, rusting car remains, skeletons, but the theme of the dialogue and survivors doesn't match with the world they live in. And in fact, you're doing almost identical missions from the first date of Decay.
What are they doing? Why did they come here?
Some kind of instinct, memory, what they used to do. This was an important place in their lives.
Number 5, stupid survivors. This ties into the suspension of disbelief thing. If there's ants in the food, and it's a year and a half after the zombie apocalypse, I'm going to eat it. If there's a cockroach, I eat it. Even in the trailer, in the advertisement for the game, Coach is eating an entire rag full of insects. But in this game, the second that they see an ant or a bug, they toss every ounce of food out. Perhaps it's a bug, but how do people this stupid make it a year and a half into this thing is beyond me. They weren't this dumb in the first one. I get into that later, but every moment the radio isn't having 3 enclaves beg me for rucksacks, my own survivors are busy destroying them. I appreciate that perhaps Undead Labs is trying to convey tension, that in the apocalypse there's constant issues, never enough time, and things are cascading and you can't keep up with all of it, and society is still collapsing all the time, and you can only really uphold your own base and you've got to make important decisions, but the decisions don't lead me towards meaningful results. I'm never balancing out like, do I help the military people or do I help my own people, because the military people give me an artillery strike and my own people need to be fed for another day, because I tend to always have enough food. The problem is AI and RNG is destroying and causing more issues for me than what my actual play is, and they wanted to make this game where I'm in charge of almost everything, where you the player are the dictator of what exactly is going to go down. So they gave you the busy work of like repairing your car and doing all the tedious fetch quests, but when it comes to making sure your survivors aren't destroying everything at your base, well, no, we can't help you there. We're just going to constantly bother you. And then my biggest thing is with this mechanic is how many times I get warned that I can't put my stuff back in the base because we have a surplus of materials, like warning, it'll decay, warning, it'll decay, warning, it'll decay. Well, this is the exact same mechanic that was in the first one, and I get it. After the first time I've gotten this text queue, I get it. And not only do they give you this text queue, they then start to give you radio commands just like these endless survivors in need that I saw this coming. The materials are ruined. Ants got in. The materials got wet. They're shooting for some really excellent things here, and I appreciate the effort of trying to make things tense and sort of like that opening scene in Dawn of the Dead when there's just simply too many things going on and it's really hard to keep track of all of it. But giving players a steady state of just survivors sitting around the base breaking shit, combined by the busy work of enclaves, it just makes me wonder how these people got this far.
You never know.
Bases were nerfed, in my opinion, and they were nerfed too hard. I understand they want the players to feel the weight of decision making, but with 8 outposts going to 6, combined with 2 new needs, power and water, along with always needing some kind of workshop and infirmary, hydroponics, well, we basically have very little choice left when all is said and done. In fact, some bases are just outright terrible right now. The church, for instance. Good luck making that into anything at least creative or interesting. There's a clear meta right now, and that is staging area, hydroponics, lounge 3, probably the storage fort container, a certain set of mods, and a meta appears in every game, but this one is so clear cut, there's very little arguments that can be made for other things. For instance, the auto mechanic shop. You build them and you make them to make your vehicle kits so that you can do your upgrades, get your parts, get your circuitry, make your kits, maybe 3 of each or something, and that's kind of excessive, even that. Put them in your locker, you're good to go, get rid of it, put the staging area back in. You can do the same thing with the forge. You can have somebody who does metalworking, make the weapons you want to make, maybe do some crafting here and there, and then just get rid of it and put the staging area back in. in. Outside of that, you go to any fort that has multiple large area slots, and you're almost always going to do a staging area, and you're almost always going to do, say, a trade depot or an armory. And that alone, to me, makes the whole entire idea of a builder legacy, even though it's a really cool idea, it doesn't accomplish anything because there's not much building that actually goes on in this game. State of Decay came out in 2013. It presented a unique base building mechanic which worked impressively for the time, and it was totally original. However, State of Decay was before 7 Days to Die came out on the console and Fallout 4. And in my opinion, these games redefined the expectations for building. Of course, State of Decay was after Minecraft, but it had to work with its limitations. It had building in its own way. But Fallout 4 really, to me, set the bar of that kind of State of Decay style of the settlements, and you can do certain buildings. In Fallout 4, I can create a supply of jet and agricultural production, having traders move between settlements to do my busy work, build and defend my settlement to my unique specification. In 7 Days to Die, I can build an underwater bunker complete with mechanical traps and dig a railway network to and fro my outposts for more looting. And in State of Decay 1, just felt more established. And in State of Decay 1, I actually think they did it better. You had the Snyder Trucking Warehouse, which was by and large the best base, and at the same time, the small bases were completely viable. Even the church was viable. The Savini house and the Kirkman residence, you could get a nice little fort going, and they really had their pros and their cons because they were centrally located. And in this State of Decay 2, there's just by and large certain forts that are really the only few that are even viable. The trader makes medium forts doable. Small forts are useless for pretty much everyone. The sheriff can make use of the police station very well. Actually, one of my favorites. But it's just unique situations create where sometimes some of the other bases get used. Otherwise, you always want to go to a large area in order just to have any kind of creativity or say in your building whatsoever. Too many enclaves who are 5 minutes away from being hostile. My gas is draining. My bag is always full. And I don't get that sense I had in, say, 7 Days to Die or Minecraft of thinking, what if I set up here? I could build a giant base there. Really, like, what if I build it this way? This is something that would require a large change, I understand, but if they could perhaps create a system where everything could be a potential base, add in the ability to upgrade and latch gates, I believe it could be achieved. I think this system could work in that the game gives each building a radius in relation to the amount of square footage it occupies. Like the Miss Justina house and all the little starter homes, they've got a certain square footage area, and almost all suburban houses could basically become like a cookie cutter for that. But every player would at least be able to try these different homes out. And you could do that, I think, with every building in the game. So nearly every home in the game can be a base. They all work similar to the starting home, a few small spaces, a couple parking spaces, and this allows the player to at least try and use their imagination towards different outcomes. What if I set up in this suburban house near Santa Maya? The bases already work in a system of small, medium, and large, where the medium bases are the ones with like 1 large slot, 6 survivors, the large 8 people, 3 large slots, 2 large slots. I think you can apply that because it's used over and over in the game like a template to nearly every brick and mortar structure in the game. And this would give players a lot more content to dig into, a lot more creativity and options. Use that creativity internally at Undead Labs to create some more facilities so that we're not building the exact same things over and over, and we're not more or less shoehorned, pigeonholed, whatever you want to say, into just a few choices. I mean, once you get your builder legacy done, the still is no more. The solar array is no more. I'm just always building a workshop, hydroponic, and an infirmary, and then I'll probably use the large slot, like I say, to do an auto shop and a forge, and then staging area, and it just repeats itself, and it's just so clear cut. Going back into, say, 7 Days to Die or Fallout 4, where I can build massive concrete walls and automated turret defenses and dig myself down underground in 7 Days to Die. In State of Decay 2, we can't even lock our gates right now. Zombies constantly jump over fences or just glitch into your fort. And I said I wasn't going to talk about bugs, so we won't talk about the bugs, but we should be able to upgrade our gates and our walls. And I think that this should work on top of the blueprint structure for the forts, where you can make anything into a fort, and then they should start with, you know, say like Miss Justina house, where it's already got a wall. That would be a level 1 wall. But some buildings wouldn't have walls at all, and we'll call that the level 0 gate, level 0 walls, and then create a mission around that. Say particularly if you're a builder, maybe only builders can go to level 4 fences. But you create a mission around that, you get a chain link fence and material, and then a chain link fence would be level 1, and then a barricaded metal fence, again another mission. You get barbed wire, let's say. You make a second layer, you put some wood in there for the weak spaces. This would go on until the player had, say, concrete walls akin to castle with lights, electricity, catwalks for guards. Really get that big time zombie game feel. The point is a bit broad. This is why I didn't like the builder playthrough. There's little to build. It's a cool idea, but it is not realized. It's a neat idea, sure, but comparable to other games, State of Decay 2 doesn't offer differ much here, and it evolved very little from the first one. It didn't really evolve at all. It added a few facilities, and they made some new forts.
Hey, man, you can't carry all that shit. Oh, I see. We're just gonna wheel right by them.
We're gonna try, brother. We ain't doing this for the exercise, so we might as well try to get what we can.
No way this is gonna happen.
Number 3, outposts and safe zones. There are 2 ways Undead Labs has approached outposts. Both offer a locker and character swap. In the first one, the outpost created a network of resources to help with upkeep, created a safe zone. Players would generally use outposts to secure whole towns or get creative, making bubbles of safe zones or checkpoints to help their looting. State of Decay 2's outpost, while offering much larger building and interesting locales, keeping the resource element intact, exists solely as looting checkpoints. In State of Decay 1, the cooldown was some 15 minutes for an outpost, but offered the ability to make traps and clear out hordes. State of Decay 2 offers a full refund and on a 7-second cooldown, in reward to being able to clear pockets and loot in an instant. State of Decay 2's system is needed because crafting components didn't exist in the first one. However, we can have our cake and eat it too, I think. Get rid of traps, but keep safe zones. Allow us to spend 1 labor per 2 outposts to create a death squad. A survivor goes out and clears out infected around the safe zone, keeping it tidy for the next couple of days until the process needs to be repeated. The survivor could face potential death, but also level up, injured, etc. But we players could again feel the satisfaction of seemingly reclaiming swaths of the frontier for mankind once more that is so missing from the second one currently.
You know, the things that you're talking about here sound like just a bunch of people talking.
This is not political rhetoric. We're not fighting. This is not the Republicans versus the Democrats. They've got us in the hole economically, or we're in another war. It's more crucial than that. We are down to the line, folks. We are down to the line.
2. The game is entirely too easy. Difficulty. I don't care that a few reviewers or first-time players fresh off of Farmville had a tough time with the game or had a really hard time with the first game. It's the zombie apocalypse. Challenge us. Make it feel apocalyptic. Breakdown nailed this, and we can tie it back to the legacy idea from earlier. Completing the legacy continues the playthrough and offers more utilities and ways to play, offers more mission objectives, but the game is going to get damned hard. This is a big ask, yes, but enclaves for the warlord should either be working for us, tithing in resources, or attacking us. Enclaves should have to maintain themselves. They should be drawing from the resources on the map. That alone makes me either want to destroy them or help them. They should offer a larger benefit if we do help them, because mostly enclaves right now mooch. This all ties into difficulty since they've tried to reinforce this idea that the enclaves are now a much bigger deal than the first one. This should incentivize the player towards more map migrations, knowing that the enclaves are pulling from resources, or if you're a warlord, you might not want to stay long, or they might be really afraid of you and you might want to stay a while. And a map migration should be akin to getting a new level and breakdown. Make it a challenge to exist like it would in the apocalypse. Make the long playthrough of 30 days or more feel very rewarding because a player has truly conquered the odds. They shouldn't be able to live that long, but if they do, they're really good players. People are blowing through play cards. They take a 50 cal out, they shoot it 3 times, they throw some C4 on it, they're done. People are blowing through the game right now, and I'm sure that'll probably get addressed in a patch. I don't think they should nerf the 50 cal, by the way. I think they just need to buff the play card, because I think the 50 cal works well against the Juggernaut currently. But anyways, more zombies spawned in State of Decay 1 from what I've experienced than in 2. The last plague heart should be the difficulty of the first one currently. Take your last plague heart and that should be where it starts, and then we can crank it up from there. Infestation should truly spread. Make me feel like I need to bring my friends in. Make me feel like I might just die. Nighttime should be a time of great reward. Bonus XP, a chance at legendary loot. There's these loot caches all around the map right now currently, but make those spawn a lot more often and in the random loot pool at night. Make me want to go out, but make it hard because it looks great. They've done a really cool job with the nighttime and the red eyes and the freaks. Legendary traders, I think, should only spawn at night and they should be far away. So it's like, let's go boys, we got our co-op team, we're gonna have to get across this map and it is going to be a hellscape. And I think that equal measure of challenge with blood plague zombies enraged and hunting, freaks in mass, and you and your friends in a car at nighttime but going towards these epic rewards will really escalate the game. I know State of Decay can do this well when combined with permadeath. In fact, it did it well in State of Decay 1 with Breakdown. The legacy system asks this game to be roguelike because the legacies don't take that long. They offer you a big reward for beating it. They're not that complex, so you would assume that it must be pretty hard to get through, like Faster Than Light or something. But it's not currently. I'm saying this having watched my 8-year-old nephew blow past most of the game. I think the first playthrough and starting point for this game are in a good place. And then then it should ramp up quickly. I want to be infected with blood plague from a normal zombie. I should be fully infected within a couple bites from a blood plague zombie. Breakdown set the bar here. We can, and State of Decay 1 players return to that DLC over and over again. It still remains the essential State of Decay experience. If this sounds like a hardcore fan asking for something that commercially couldn't work, set difficulty options. Give us our leaderboard back. I see 3 difficulties if I were doing it. Normal, which is the current experience, but map migration does do minor escalation of the threat, and enclaves work as they currently work. And then hardcore, which is breakdown-esque difficulty. Map migration brings major escalations in difficulty. There's more infestations more often. They spread more rapidly. There's 12 or more hearts per map. This would introduce the simulated resource consumption of enclaves. And you don't actually got to make guys go out there and grab resources. I mean, you just have the simulation not only drawing from your resources, but homes around the enclaves. And maybe the enclaves get so desperate they start to attack you. This is going to make some buildings empty, and more of them are going to empty per day. Car spawning very similar to breakdown. This is the third difficulty, survival. Every element of hardcore that I just mentioned, but now normal zombies, if you get bitten, you've got blood plague. And blood plague zombies infect within a bite, and you've got 45 minutes to cure. I know I say this as a hardcore fan, but all the same, I believe creating the tension of death is where the thrill of State of Decay comes from. And the satisfaction of getting established, leveled up, owning swaths of the map feels rewarding, having come out the better for it. And that's when you make the player feel powerful. I know that's what hooked me on the first game so much, was it's so hard to get started, but then once you get started and you've got safe zones and you've got a big base, you just feel, I own this world. And I just don't get that experience in State of Decay 2 very often. This ties into a quick note on combat. Combat system of the first game was set up as a lightweight fighter game, where a survivor would feel leveled enough to go down specializations, and then the player would attempt to synergize those around each individual survivor. Both games included the same turbo button, but whereas the first tied the turbo button to combinations of left bumper X for hand-to-hand moves, left bumper B for melee special moves, left bumper Y for finishers, left bumper XY for hand-to-hand finishers, and this simple list actually did create a surprising amount of diversity in styles when it comes to combat. But now the turbo is basically just used to sprint and search. So they've mapped the Y button into way too many things, and they've replaced turbo with grapple. Now, there are some cool moves. The shove is excellent. I like the instant finishers with both close combat and swordplay, but they're just that. You're maxed out now, so now you can just insta-kill zombies. 90% of the time, I'm getting behind a zombie and I'm executing, or I'm just insta-executing. I missed getting good at the 1-2 punch. It wasn't very complex, but there was a skill to it. And I want to know what happened to heavy weapons. I know they seem to be thrown into the slot with the blunt weapons. Now, they did a great thing with the weapon specialization. The weapon handling, the assault skill, all that was totally the right decision to make there, because a lot of that stuff was redundant and never got used. But I liked the melee weapon specializations. I mentioned this combat as a quick note in difficulty because this isn't a negative per se. They're doing some really cool things here, and I think that if they are going to continue to work on it, the grapple has a lot more potential than the executions. They should be able to build a lot more combat skills off of it. It just, time will tell if they actually do that. Mention dynamic weather. This ties into the day-night cycle. Weather is a missed opportunity. I imagine waiting for fog to act as a smoke grenade, or seeing a bloater stumble out of the fog as the player takes on a much harder version of a plague heart. So hard that they ideally time it with the weather. Wait until the fog to go take it on, or wait until the rain comes. Say, seeing rain come down to confuse zombies so they stare at the sky. Hard thunderstorms to throw the players audio cues for a loop and makes the zombies chase shadows and run rabbit. Dynamic weather is a huge missed opportunity. Number 1, the simulation. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, some people hated offline progression, fine. I think mostly they hated coming back to Daryl, Chester, and Steve, having had it out, and then went to the ever-convenient excuse of on a mission, to never be found again. At least I did. However, one bad element doesn't mean the entire system was broken. What did work? Having my vehicle and weapons repaired while I was gone. They've added elements such as manual repair of everything, I'm assuming to make the multiplayer work, but at the cost of the single player experience. It works in multiplayer and should be kept. Being able to use a friend's facility, it builds upon the foundations of the game, but taking out that survivors would repair vehicles, weapons, bulk craft, and training weakened the game. This is one quality of life element, progression element, and immersion element, which they pulled off in the first one and then scrapped entirely. And this one is huge to me. It's why I put it at number 1. Some of the new facilities, such as the auto workshop, make the building look worse because they do so little. We craft our kits, then scrap the thing. If anything, don't make the regular workshop repair vehicles, but only the auto workshop at the daily cost of materials and parts. The first State of Decay offered this depth, where going down the workshop tree, one got to choose whether to do a munitions shop or a machine shop again, showing little was added to the building. At least allow survivors to craft a batch of repair kits while I'm out. Then let's say 6 in an hour. Then I can requeue if necessary like the first game. With the auto workshop, survivors are also repairing and refueling vehicles. Currently, I have to ask, what are my survivors doing besides doing stand-in animations like sitting on nothing and eating beans? Why is my auto mechanic just sitting around? I like the repair kits and gasoline, and doing those while I'm out on the road is great. It makes sense. But coming home to auto mechanic Bonnie, sitting on her ass in the auto workshop with 3 busted cars and no gasoline, is only creating busy work for the player. In the first game, this was handled for you, and this element of the game felt rewarding, especially when tied into making a safe zone, as if the player truly created a base of operations, like in a role-playing game, that was supplying the player with bonuses. It made me feel as if I was taking back the city from the dead. Further, it fits the simulation. Getting things done at the base made the world feel more alive. The base and the people in it were doing things. Things were happening in this world off camera. It was happening all the time. They focused the game more towards the player in State of Decay 2, but at the cost of making the rest of the world seem as if it's frozen in time around you. You could have the zombies spawn in a city, and then you gotta slowly take back the city where there's a lot more resources. But this thing where the zombies are almost constantly around you, no matter what, even in areas where there would never be any people. And I live in a rural area, you go out and there's not a lot of people, so why is there always like 12 zombies no matter what in the field around you? It kills the immersion because you can tell that it's sort of like the Truman Show. Things are being woven around you and not organically. Probably a hard thing to pull off, but this is something that they pulled off in the first game that I think they could pull off again. This death of the simulation is further aggrieved by how stupid survivors are now. They both do not do anything useful, and in fact, actively cause harm. Perhaps a good mechanic towards getting rid of the bad eggs in the group, say when someone had a lousy back or, smokes pot constantly, and so they cause a lot of trouble at base. But when you have well-trained survivors, they shouldn't be destroying and wasting as much as they do. Whereas in the first, I would be having my survivors clear out the infected from the town to create a safe zone, setting traps, trading with other enclaves, offering target practice for ammunition, opening up our facilities to other enclaves for resources, having survivors run trades, repair, maintain vehicles, weapons, crafting a constant supply of meds and snacks. They now sit around and complain about a lack of storage, how things are going to waste, their eagerness to be played for a mission, and waste resources in ways that a player wouldn't expect a bunch of hardened survivors having lived this long would do. The facilities work well for multiplayer. Having our friends get instant crafting for their personal needs is working well, but the player who owns the base, I believe, needs the old system back, at least the option of doing the old system, where we would craft in bulk while we're out, and we would have a busy base to come back to. This experience of a busy base, a safe radius cleansed of the infected, while out looting the dusty roads and a reliable pickup, was to me the essential State of Decay experience. It felt satisfying. It called back to moments at night or dawn after the characters had made themselves safe for a little while. It felt as if we were taking the world back. It worked. What do our survivors do now? They wait for us to interact with them. They do random animations with the exception of building, which don't pertain to anything. We must use our characters individually to do crafting, but these are the survivors we want to loot with, not do menial labor. The feeling of satisfaction caused by having a base running on all cylinders, crafting suppressors, doing a training program, giving weapons training, repairing equipment is gone. Having to craft each vehicle repair kit manually, then repair it manually, then craft a gas jug, fuel it manually, just gets to be tedious. They've added redundancy. If I'm on the road, it's great. Tension, risk, reward, etc. However, when I'm at home and have a mechanic, I have to wonder what the hell they've been doing with my time, Frankenstein. The same goes for weapons, which are entirely too expensive to repair. 98 parts for a baseball bat. They stepped up the micromanagement in many ways which work, notably the balancing of survivors and their traits, crafting components, there being a risk-reward to every action. But in the same stroke, they killed many of the good parts of the simulation, which helped the player feel they had built a community. And I want to quickly note that not all animations are useless. Like if you do a training program, you actually get to see your survivors and they're doing a training program. It's just, yes, the animation matches, but it's not actually accomplishing anything. Okay, in conclusion, I want to say that State of Decay 2 is a bigger and better game than its predecessor. I am a fan of the franchise and Undead Labs. None of this is personal. I'm offering my 2 cents into the pool, having now played enjoyed both games considerably. Had I played this game in isolation from the first, I would have enjoyed the game even more. There is ultimately more to do, and I found months of enjoyment in the first game. Explore Radiant missions, try to build the perfect community, become self-sustaining, upgrade all the vehicles, find caches, etc. But so my goal here wasn't to knock the game down, only to highlight changes made between 1 and 2 I believe could be bridged to make an overall better game. I'm a fan of the game. I want to see it succeed. And with Microsoft believing in Undead Labs, combined with their vision and talent, I believe it will. Thank you for watching.